Imagine this. You're scrolling through your phone, but instead of Instagram, you're on a government-approved app called Redline. No YouTube, no Facebook. Your device doesn't run on Android or iOS, but on a centralized operating system designed by the state. There's no Google, no Apple. Instead, a monolithic tech entity called Soyuz Tech powers everything you do, and every click you make is monitored. But how did we even get here? Today, we're diving deep into a world that could have been a parallel timeline where the United States lost the Cold War and the Soviet Union emerged as the dominant superpower. What would this alternate 21st century look like? What freedoms would we lose? And what new values might replace them? This isn't just some dystopian fantasy. It's a totally plausible alternative history where everything from culture to economics, from daily life to global politics, takes a totally different shape. So, buckle in. This is What If the USSR Had Won the Cold War? To understand the consequences, we first need to imagine how things went down. Let's rewind to the late 1970s. The U.S. is stuck in a painful economic downturn. Oil crises, inflation, rising debt. Meanwhile, people are totally fed up with the Vietnam War, and political scandals like Watergate have shattered public trust. The government looks super weak, protest movements are blowing up. In this alternate timeline, the USSR totally takes advantage of these weaknesses. They score big victories in proxy wars, Angola, Afghanistan, even Central America, messing with US influence. Then comes the real game changer, Europe. In this world, Western Europe doesn't stick with NATO. Instead, socialist movements gain a ton of traction in Italy, France, West Germany, fueled by economic inequality and anti-American feelings. The U.S. totally fails to stop it from spreading, and NATO just collapses. The world watches as one by one, former American allies either declare neutrality or switch sides to the Soviet-led Warsaw Pact. By 1989, instead of the Berlin Wall falling, it becomes a symbol of triumph, of socialism crushing capitalism. But how does that change literally everything? In this timeline, the United Nations is effectively a Soviet-led body. The Security Council, once balanced, now leans heavily toward Moscow's agenda. Voting blocs are predictable. International law is interpreted through a socialist lens. The global economy? No free markets here. It's a planned economy on a worldwide scale, orchestrated from Moscow. Trade agreements prioritize resource distribution and worker solidarity over profit. The ruble becomes the de facto global reserve currency, and major international banks are nationalized or simply cease to exist in their old form. And what about military power? While the USSR still maintains a formidable arsenal, the need for a global arms race dwindles. Without a major capitalist rival, military spending shifts. Resources are redirected towards infrastructure projects, social programs, and space exploration, but with a distinctly collectivist goal. Think massive orbital construction, not lunar flags. Here's where things get really chilling. No Steve Jobs, no Silicon Valley, no open source revolution. Without capitalist incentive and independent entrepreneurs, major tech breakthroughs totally stall. The internet exists, sure, but it's super strictly regulated, developed not as a tool for global communication, but for government monitoring. It's called the People's Network, a closed system kind of like China's Great Firewall, only way bigger. Every site is filtered, every message archived. Private browse? Nope. Doesn't exist. No Google. Instead, a search engine called vector search gives you only what the party wants you to know. A video platform called Red Vision streams state-approved content, patriotic music, documentaries about workers' revolutions, and history that's been revised. Facebook and Twitter, gone. In their place, a platform called Unity Feed allows collective sharing of approved content. Every like, logged. Every share, monitored. And AI? Forget about it. Development of neural networks is capped. Quantum computing is illegal. Blockchain technology is considered subversive. The focus isn't on groundbreaking innovation, but on practical government-controlled applications for resource management and societal optimization. It's a world where freedom of speech is replaced with freedom to just go along with things. But surprisingly, not everyone sees it as a dystopia. Yeah, there's censorship, there's control. But what if we told you some stuff actually got better? Without the crazy obsession for endless growth, the environment is way better. Fewer carbon emissions. Mass transit is super efficient and everywhere. Cities are walkable. There's no consumerist craziness, no planned obsolescence. Factories are designed for longevity, not disposability. Education and healthcare are guaranteed for everyone. No student debt, no medical bankruptcies. The average life expectancy is a little lower, but the quality of life, in many ways, is more fair. Preventative care is prioritized, leading to a healthier baseline for the average citizen. No one's a billionaire, but no one's homeless either. Food security is a given, with state-run agricultural programs ensuring everyone has enough to eat. Advertising doesn't exist. Your attention isn't something to be sold. Kids grow up without YouTube algorithms feeding them stuff. There's no TikTok, but there's more time spent outside, in well-maintained public parks and community centers. There's a push for collective activities and physical health. It's a world that trades freedom for stability. Hollywood doesn't rule the world. In fact, it barely exists. In its place, Redflix, a state-run film institution that pushes collectivist ideas. Movies focus on worker heroes, revolutionary victories, and moral stories about not being too individualistic. They're often grand, epic, and inspiring, designed to reinforce the party's narrative. Music? Heavily censored. Western genres like punk, rap, or hyperpop are banned, but folk music thrives. Choral compositions, classical revival, songs that are all about unity and the power of the collective. Traditional dance and art forms are also highly encouraged. Art and literature are carefully chosen. Dystopian fiction is illegal, but utopian sci-fi? Totally encouraged, as long as the utopia fits with party values. Writers and artists are provided with state support, but their creative freedom is, of course, limited by ideological guidelines. And fashion? Forget designer labels. Everyone wears standardized, state-approved clothes, often practical and uniform in design. But there's no body shaming, no fast fashion waste. Quality over quantity is the mantra, and clothes are made to last. It's a culture of conformity and quiet contentment. In this world, the American dream is totally dead. There are no elections. Instead, local councils are formed to represent the will of the workers. These councils send delegates to a national Congress, but real power still centralized in a Politburo. Private property still exists in a limited way. You can own your house, but not a second one. You can run a business, but only with 5 employees or fewer, and under strict state oversight. Major industries, healthcare, education, energy, media, tech, and key manufacturing are taken over by the state. Corporate lobbying is non-existent, and prisons replaced with labor rehabilitation centers. Let's just call them what they are, gulags, but sanitized, rebranded, and presented as places for re-education and contribution to society. The U.S. becomes a quiet giant, no longer loud, no longer free, but functional. Its resources are integrated into the global Soviet economy, and its citizens are re-educated to embrace socialist values. So, what's daily life actually like? Your mornings begin with state-sponsored news on your Soyuz tech device, perhaps a summary of production quotas met and community achievements. Work is steady, predictable. You have a job that contributes to the collective, and while there might not be a huge variety of careers, there's a strong sense of purpose. Weekends might involve communal sports, state-organized cultural events, or quiet time in nature. Travel is regulated. International travel is heavily restricted, but domestic travel to collective farms or state-run resorts is encouraged. Food is plentiful, though perhaps not diverse. Staple crops and centrally distributed goods are the norm. Queues for certain items might still exist, but scarcity of basic necessities is a thing of the past. Your apartment might be modest, but it's guaranteed. Your children attend state-run schools where critical thinking is guided, not openly encouraged, and where the values of the collective are instilled from a young age. It's a life where grand individual dreams are replaced by a shared vision, where the absence of choice can feel like a strange kind of freedom from the pressures of modern capitalist life. So here's the big question. Would you choose this world? A world without Google, but without misinformation. A world without Facebook, but without election meddling. A world without billionaires, but without poverty. A world without the chaotic freedom of choice, but with a profound sense of security and belonging. Would you trade freedom of expression for freedom from fear? The rush of innovation for planned stability? No world is perfect, and no victory comes without a cost. But in this alternate reality, we're forced to really think about what we assume. Maybe freedom isn't the only thing that matters. Maybe control isn't always bad. And maybe, just maybe, history could have gone super differently.